Welcome back. This is the final session, is it not? Yeah. Cheers. Huzzah. All right, so I'm not going to spend lots of time apart from to welcome Christian Klinkenberg from the Free University of Brussels. How we say it in English? His talk is a combination of graphic notation and microtonal pitch notation in the video score of the opera The Cross of the Engaged.
Yes, hello, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here. It's opening a complete new universe for me because I'm really a pen and paper composer. Never use, in fact, tools for composition, and I see wow, there are opportunities to work with fancy tools for graphic notation. If I would have known, I think it would have developed in a completely different way. But maybe there are also other possibilities or paths I've taken that are new. I don't know. We will see. So I did a combination of graphic notation and microtonal pitch notation in my opera and did a video score out of it. Here's a short example of the rehearsal before the fifth concert.
Gegen den kalten weißen Winter im Fenn haben sie keine Chance. Das Wetter verlangt Opfer. In der Überlieferung und natürlich auch auf der Bühne müssen die beiden Frischverliebten am Ende sterben. Für den Komponisten Christian Klinkenberg ist das dramatische Finale ein Muss.
So, I'm in fact I'm doing a PhD in microtonality, and there are of course always notation issues. It is very difficult, more difficult of course if you have more accidentals, and sometimes you have also special notation for new instruments. And even if you yourself invented that notation, it's still difficult because you have a notation that you learned as a child, and it's very fluent. You can play it very fast. But here you have really relearn it for every concert. That's why I tried to find another possibility. Of course, adding other parameters, it becomes very complex, more and more complex, and it takes too much time with traditional notation. That's why I tried to work with graphic notation. One other aspect I forgot, there is also, if there is, for me, if there is too much information written, it becomes a little bit like pure execution of commands. Where is the creativity of the musicians? So I tried to find possibilities, and also I tried to make sketches myself, but I found that they were aesthetically unsatisfactory. That's why I found the painter Microtonal is based in Cologne, and I found, yes, his paintings are already, there's already music in it, so I don't need to do much more. So we had for 1 year a collaboration. We tried out something, I made some sketches, he made some drawings, some pictures, but there was always the problem, the pieces were short because it was not on a computer, it was just one painting. And for an opera, it's not enough, of course. That's why the solution was for me a video score, because otherwise you would have the problems of the page turns. I was not yet aware of decibels, so it's called there in score. That would have made things easier. I treated elements differently. Foreground are the elements that have to be played actually. I outsources all non-pitch material to the paintings, and underneath I coupled them in the same color with staff notation, and sometimes I wrote also things like with whom you have to make intonation, what is the same group, so like violin is playing together with the flute, information like that. For the foreground elements, I used 4 colors, 4 easily distinguishable colors. Red, green, blue, and black. That's also a technical issue because I worked with Finale and there are 4 layers and you can have 4 different colors then we had for the graphics scores 17 different, for each musician different. That means for the string quartet already 4, then 6 with the percussionist and so on. Piano 1, flute, clarinet, double bass for singers. Special score for the conductor because he has to see all the parts. That means I had to change the angle and make a vertical score for him on a big screen because I tried it first on an iPad and he said, I can't see anything. And then we have also for the director and the light technician. How to deal with the background? It was not my question, it was a question of the painter because he wanted also to make art. And he said, okay, if I only do some elements, it's not enough. We have to do something with the background. So I went researching, and my solution was the basic emotions: anger, disgust, fear, happiness, sadness, surprise, found by American psychologist Paul Ekman. And these I combined with the psychology of colors. So what came out? Rose for joy, Mary, happiness, and so on. Violet, red, so red like the devil. Black, that's something I added. In fact, I have 7 background colors, and there are only 6 basic emotions. So we had the weather, the goddess of the weather, as a person in our opera. And I said, okay, contempt, that's for the goddess. Then we have blue, brown, and green. So I had to define, of course, also the length of the page. I defined 40 seconds. One possibility would be 10 measures in 4/4, tempo 60, but there are also other possibilities. That's why I worked with transparent foils, again, pen and paper, with different tempo grids. So here is an example how I draw it. First I do a frame, and then I put that transparent foil over the different tempo grids to sketch my foreground. So here I'm going to take, it's BPM 58. So I have tempo grids from 20 to 180. And then I start drawing the different elements. Of course, there was also the question of how to differentiate the foreground from the background. On the video, I had the possibility to make a 3-dimensional effect and shadows. And I could also move them a little bit around, so it was easier to see for the musicians how to, what's background and what's foreground. Then, after that, I can add also at the same time another tempo. Sometimes I work also without any tempo, just free painting, of course. And I put it on that grid. A little bit also, so that's here tempo 76, yes. And it's a little bit in analogy also to the microtonal use I want to do in my next opera, to use different scales at the same time. So like a volunteers together with 19 Edo, 70 Edo. So it's also a little bit like that. Different tempos can be at the same time. So and then I give that sketch to the painter, and he can make with his drawing pad his foreground versions. That's the second layer, and the first layer is always drawn on canvas, so not with a computer. Here is the way I do it with my sketches, and on the right you see the realization of the painter. define the role of the conductor. He's the only one, in fact, to receive a cursor line. Because we have the human aspect, the singers were not allowed to have a score on stage. They had really to concentrate on acting. And of course, there's the human aspect also. We need to let them the time sometimes. That's why the director can go a little bit forward in time or backward as he wants. But of course, then we have to find some signs. Like for the hands, I used it like Lutoslavsky in his symphonies. Then sometimes we have also conducting measures. Free passages, on, off. And sometimes he has to also the direct dynamics style, because there are sometimes musicians, like one percussion player, he was really creative, and the most creative of all, but the problems with the creativity, he was sometimes also much louder than the others. That's why it's always good to have a conductor. So the software I used, Finale, with VST plugins, together with Scala for the microtonal use. Then Adobe, Premiere, Illustrator, Acrobat, Infant View for the cropping of the batch cropping of the PDFs and putting them into JPEGs. And then different video players. Everybody could use the video player once on any system he wants. Video client, QuickTime as he wants. So here are some excerpts. First, I would like to say that it's a microtonal opera, but I didn't use, in that case, really a scale that I used later for other projects. Now I like to work with a 1-pier scale, as I said, 19 EDU. But here I used, in fact, as microtonal notes, only the 7th partial and the 11th partial, and of course, all the possible ratios I could have, like 7, 5, 9, 7, and sometimes also, if I have, for example, 9, 7, I can have also a glissando to another one. So that was my microtonal use in that opera. And I started really, okay, I used that, that's the beginning of the opera. And we can see also the shadows I used, and the hand signals of the conductor. That's the first concert, Garmes Takes. That was stopping. So the next example is about 5-quarter tone scale. And this time we have a measured situation. And you can see here also that I tried to have a separate part for the singers. But above you have always the singers. That means, in that case, from here on, these are the singers, and underneath the instrumentalists. But of course that can change. And here the singer has to do only one note, stay on the same note. line, but there are a lot of. That's the first concert. Somebody starts too early, I think. And so on. Another example here, just using that I did also like a lot, just working with tremolo, glissando, coming together, more going out and working with that is also a form of microtonality for me.
Das hat schon mehr als einen den Tod gebracht.
Lieber sterben, als wir so früh verstorben.
And so on. One example. I don't have enough time. So I'm going to go on for the following project. That's only very short now. I used the experience I had for the first one, and I thought it is so easy to read, in fact, graphic notation. Why not use it for the audience? So it's 7 pieces, and it's called 7 pieces. But it was there's a German version, there's also English version and a French version with a storyteller. And I composed it entirely in ball and pierce. Here that is one possibility of the app. So in fact it's working with tape. But in that case it is not the technician who triggers the tape but the audience. It seems to be easy, but it was not easy. As I see on the video that half of the symbols they were too late. And differences to the opera, I used element groove. That I did just by choosing one musician. He's the one who is the timekeeper, and the other one has to be behind. Then I have multiple connected graphics, so that means one for the musicians and another one for the audience. Background, in that case, I also used the different colorings, like for the subliminal information. So I didn't tell them, in fact, that blue is cold. They had to feel it. So I had illustrations to the story that was told at the same time. But what was interesting, I had 80 pages of foreground symbols, but only half illustrations with a half tempo. So it was more easy to distinguish from the foreground. Then I have also the interactive audience, or in Pierce scale instrument. So special instruments, special constructed instruments like MilieuX also on guitar. You told already that you work with him. Also one instrument that has been co-developed. That is the Golden Pierce clarinet, played by Nora Louise Müller, and special bass guitar, also special Golden Pierce chimes that I constructed with my father. So all special instruments. An FX score, that means we have the audience playing the samples, but there's also the possibility to add effects to it with amplitude. And the storyteller, and this time cursor lines for everybody because we didn't need an effect for that director. And for syncing, I had this time also a program. I found it. It's called Sync Play, and we can use different systems and different players, and they all sync together. And I did it also in surround. Here is an example. But I need to see the score for the audience.
Der deprimierte Diener öffnet
Press and keep it as long as there is the color. Like
Good
here is a
luck.
layer, and yes,
klopfte an. Öffnete die Tür.
It doesn't matter. There's also groove, that's what I
So, sagte er. Besuch. Der betrübte Besitzer drehte sich in seinem Stuhl. Der Diener öffnete die Tür und sie trat ein. Und erstmal hörte sie nur ein Klopp, klopp, klopp. Der junge Mann saß vornübergebeugt, die Ellenbogen auf die Knie gestützt. Und zwischen seine Beine hatte ihm der Diener einen Eimer gestellt.
Okay, for an outlook now. First thing that has nothing to do with notation, I would like to use that app for also for as a remote for all kind of programs. So that means you have just to install on your computer a small app, and this computer becomes the server, and then you have the possibility to use media mapping, and you can use symbols for remote for different programs. That would be a side use of the app. Then I plan to do a second opera. I know already the title, The Glacier, the glacier. It will be in 2019, and it will be, as I said, combination of microtonal scales. And that's why I created different microtonal keywords, because I like to play at home, not always being on the computer, but sometimes also just a little bit trying out sounds and intervals. And there will be also some more keywords, because I don't know yet what will be the third scale I will use. Other possible improvements, multiple connected graphics. A video score could become the scene on an opera. That means if I have a projector, I can say, okay, we need grass, so we can make a green background maybe. Also for the workflow, it could be really handy to have a collection of graphic elements that I often use. Then it could be interesting, instead of using always paintings, to use objects. I have some friends, they are working with objects, and I saw you can photograph them from all sides and use the objects in a video. Then you might have other possibilities, like seeing, oh, in the end there are from that side some scratches, I can play them. And then separate treatments, maybe for each foreground element. So I could, instead of color coupling, highlight them sharp for each musician. That would be also another possibility. And then, maybe later, for the mobility, because the director always asks me, is it not possible that the musicians move? Maybe in a few years, if we have possibility to use transparent wireless glasses. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
This isn't so much a question, but did you know you can already make AR glasses? You can already do that now.
Yes, but if I have 12 musicians, are they not expensive?
If you make it yourself, the price goes down dramatically.
Oh, that's a good idea. But I don't know how to do it. Maybe you can explain it.
I'm sure that with the combined minds in this room, it can be done even cheaper.
Great. Thank you.
Isn't it with a mobile phone and a
yes, but
piece
then
of cardboard?
you have to have a camera, and then you have problems of latency, I think.
And one. Quick. Thank you.
Yeah, I have one question, a very mundane question, though, I have to say. It's about how do you fund your projects? I mean, it seems like you have so many different people involved, and I mean, I also live in Germany. You do your projects in Germany also, right? So I'd be very interested in hearing how you can find money?
Yeah, it's expensive, so a lot of things I pay myself. And of course I tried here with that to have a theme that's attractive. And it was a theme from a story that really happened 150 years ago. So that means I was sure to have 1,000 people watching the opera. And so I had already, and normally if I do more microtonal composition, then I do 10. So if you have an interesting theme, you have a little bit of founding already. And then to have a little bit from here and there, but it's not enough. That's why I have to do a lot myself. I'm not only a composer, I'm also the cook. All the people sleep at our house and things like that.
What is your opera Glacier about?
So it's also about regional things. There's an author, already 80 years, he died, 80 years ago he died. So that means there are no any more royalties, very interesting. And so it's an opera about two brothers, very young, one dies in the glacier. And in fact, to make it short, 40 years later he comes back and he finds himself in the glacier and he says, that's me. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much.